G'day friends, welcome to today's YouTube video. My name is James, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. Today's extra mile video is week 3 of my Halloworkshop extra mile videos. Basically, if you haven't seen, each week that I'm doing this Halloworkshop, I have a Friday YouTube video, which is a lesson that just didn't really make the cut for whatever reason. There are various reasons, but for today, this was Skeletina Ballerina, who I think originally I called Skeletina Turner, or I'm not quite sure. Anyway, she's a ballerina skeleton, and this is the Sugar Plum Fairy version because it involves all of our really precious candies for Halloween. So I'm going to get straight into this. It's all drawing, it's all fun art journaling, very whimsical, and I'm going to start with basically blocking her out in stick figure form. I mean, that's kind of the way to go. I think I'm going to give her a big head and a smaller body this time. She's going to be a little babier proportions. This is actually, you know what? No, I literally said that in my head. I said no, because then you'll think about it and then you'll think, no, I wish she was like a really long, gangly ballerina skeleton. I did this before too. All right, start with my little circle. That's going to be the head. And then I like this kind of curve in her spine. Terrible ballerina, terrible posture. Put a little curve there. This is the little triangle that becomes this kind of circus tent tutu. I really don't know where this thing came from. I think originally a Wizarding Artist Society lesson, I had some toy thing that I designed. I'm not quite sure. Do not ask me where half these things pop up in my head because there's no rhyme or reason for half of it, but I'm certain half of this came from that Wizarding Artist Society lesson that I actually don't think I taught. I mean, I did. I definitely taught a version of it, but I never taught the skeleton woman. So she makes her appearance now. She makes her debut. All right, then she's going to have a leg that pops out here. I want to draw it a little bit longer because I missed the knee joint here. So that's going to be the knee there. And then she's going to have her foot kind of on point as you can go on these skeleton legs. And then she'll have the other foot popping out here, knee joint, bone, winged foot, a nice wing, winged out. I wonder if I can put her on point. Do I want her on point like that? I feel like I'd have to curve the bone a little bit so I can get that forced arch. You know what? I think I will. I think I'll do it. It's just because I like the toes to kind of peek out, but it's fine. Oh, we're supposed to do her on a gumdrop. No, she's going to be floating in the air. She's jumping. She's frolicking. All right. I'm going to make this bow a lot bigger, I think. Huge bow. I need to fill the whole page. I'm not used to drawing so big. This is an A4 size journal. It's huge. I'll leave the little ribbons for when she's got the rest of her body on. I'll put her a little square to kind of infer where the rib cage goes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, jump. I want to swing from the chandelier. This bent, crooked arm. She's got little Sugar Plum Fairy arms. She's very delicate, very princessy. It's great because essentially it's a stick figure, but I mean, it's technically all sticks. The sticks are the bones, so you don't need to flesh it out. And she can look really gangly and crazy. I think I might exaggerate her fingers a little bit. I feel like she could have longer. I mean, she does have kind of long fingers here too, so maybe that's already something I've done. I like this to be really wobbly and wonky. I did neaten up this drawing a lot, but I might not for this. I don't know. Who really knows what I'm going to do at this light stage? I do have to fix this leg. It's going to irritate me. They're just a fraction too long, and maybe this is why I didn't do the knee in the first place. I can shorten the dress. It will all work out. The proportions. Sometimes I've just got to draw in the skeleton underneath. Otherwise, I'll never know what I'm doing. And then she can have her other leg out there. That's better. Wing, foot. And then she can have her dress really tutu-like. This one's a bit more of a flat angle trapezium type thing. I'm gonna try and give it more of that tutu flat flare. Oh, I don't know how many I'm supposed to have. 5? I've sectioned it off wonky because I've got too many sketchy lines. There you go. 1, and then half, and half. 2, 3, 4, 5. Whatever, it's gonna be wonky for now. She's got nothing in that hand, and she's got her beautiful lollipop stick in this hand. I think I might exaggerate everything. I did lots of delicate details on this. This is gonna be a lot more exaggerated. I love doing something again because it gives me the opportunity to really push where I initially thought I was pushing, but you always look back at it and think, I probably could have gone further than that. Like, I could have winged this out a lot more. I could have pushed those proportions. That could have been thinner, that could have been bigger. She technically couldn't be any thinner. She is bones, but you know what I mean. I'm stacking a whole bunch of kind of wonky circles on top of each other for the spine. There's no reality to this. In fact, her ribcage is just floating in air. So for whatever reason you were expecting a realistic Skeletina, don't know why you would have been, but it's not this. When you're drawing the bones, if you want to put a little heart shape on the end of every stick, that kind of looks like that connecting piece where your bones connect. I'm not drawing all the joints. I'm just going bone and then like pretending they're connected, really. And then the fingers are all kind of separated into a few sticks. I think I've had 3. A few sticks coming out from the wrist, and then fingers coming out from that. And maybe I did add 5 from that. Who knows? It's not supposed to make sense. My brain is trying to make sense of it. Like, James, why did you do that? I don't know. Brain doesn't work. All right, put on my little loop-de-loop triple U down the bottom for this skull. It's a little bit softer. I'm not trying to draw her to look too mean or crazy looking. And then she gets these beautiful almond-shaped eyes, incredibly wide set. They're almost at the edge of her head. You can go bigger for a cuter look, but I really like that these look kind of sinister, but it's still very cute. I don't know, I love that balance where depending on what mood you're in, you look at it and you think, oof, or, oh wow, so cute. And then a tiny little upside down heart-shaped nose. Big old crack in her skull. She did have a bit of a mishap, poor thing. She's a ballerina, but she's not very trained, so she tends to fall from time to time and crack herself up, quite literally. I think that is it as far as the bones. Been waiting to use that one. This is the bones of the drawing. I've got to put the leg bone on. Again, sticks, just little sticks wherever you think you don't know what you're supposed to draw. Sticks and scribbles will break my bones. Wow, there's a lot of good play on words for bones. Should have taught a bones lesson a long time ago. Seeing these bones like this reminds me of my accident. Oof, I'm triggered. She's not going to be on point. She's on demi. I can't help it. I just don't think they look right on point. Maybe if I gave them point shoes, but I don't know. That seems like overkill. I say, as I'm about to add every single lolly that's ever been created on the planet to this picture. All right, so she's got to have decoration. She's got to be a beautiful sugar plum princess of the underworld. So she's getting lollies on candy cane bracelets, lots of stripes, lots of, what do you call it? Polka dots. She's having 2 of those. I love a bangle. If you don't know this about me, I think one of the most glamorous things in the world was when I used to go get my hair cut at Just Cuts when I was a little boy, and I would see the hairdressers and they'd have wrists full of jingle jangle bangles. And I just love it. I love it in photo shoots too, when there's so many bangles on a wrist. They look so heavy. When I was 18, I went on a cruise with my mum. It was a New Year's cruise. I think I went with my mum and my stepdad and my sister. And I was 18, so I was legally able to drink. So that was kind of an interesting holiday, being in my parents' cabin, coming home drunk. They weren't too judgmental about it, but it was certainly an odd kind of learning experience. Anyway, all that to say, every port I would go to in the South Pacific, I'd just be buying little souvenir bangles. Because you got to be careful sorry, I'm just adding lollies. If you did the My Lolly Bag lesson from the Halloworkshop for week 3, you will have a whole reference sheet of these lollies from the alphabet that you would have looked at to create your lolly bag, and I'm putting all of those kinds of lollies on here, so reference that if you need to. Otherwise, just go nuts decorating with lollies. Anyway, you have to be careful with the type of souvenirs you get from the South Pacific, because quarantine in Australia will confiscate a lot of them. So I remember when I was younger, I got all these little pets, like not rock pets, they were made out of shells, they were like shell pets, and I got them all confiscated because they were a biohazard. So I was devastated. But anyway, I figured that the bracelets wasn't gonna be too bad if I lost them. They were relatively inexpensive, but I would stack them, and by the end of the cruise I had a stack of bracelets like this big, and they were all kind of tied on with triple knots, so I there was no way I was getting them on and off, and I would swim with them, and they got all really weathered really quickly, and I just loved them. I felt so, I don't know, beachy, tropical. And then I went from there, I kept them on for ages, and then I went to Japan. I had to get rid of them because I was about to start working at Tokyo Disneyland, and there was no way I was going to be able to keep those on, but that's when I decided to get rid of them. I think I kept them and I would put them on from time to time, but it was just like this one period of my life where I lived with a whole bunch of bracelets on. I like that for me. I should do that again now. Although it would get very annoying to listen to in a video, I'm sure. Loved it with the hairdressers, but you're only there for what, 40 minutes max? Half an hour? Well, I was anyway. And that's enough. You don't need more than that. Maybe hairdressers get used to it. I'm going to put a bunch of lollies on her head as well. I'm actually just copying my reference straight up. If you're in the Halloworkshop, you get these references printed out. Well, I don't print them out. They're available to print out for you to print out if you want them. So go and check those there, and then you can get a closer look at everything else. To anyone not in the Halloworkshop, just use your best judgment. There we go. Put this on. I don't know if I need to be able to see that one. A big gumdrop. I love the exaggerated proportions on this one. Sometimes I get nervous to come to this journal and draw something that fills the whole page. Oh, I love that. Looks like a little hat. Like a little pillbox hat. Sometimes I get nervous to draw on these pages because they're just so big, and I just think my proportions are going to be all wonky. Sometimes the drawings just don't look the way I want them to look. And even though I keep my expectations relatively low, I still want to do a good job sometimes. So I just tell myself, like, if it works, good for you. Lucky. And if it doesn't, well, don't worry about it. You got your other smaller example over here you can be proud of. Not that I'm not proud if I don't do something well. I'm always happy and proud of myself if I have a good time. My expectation is always set to have a good time. And that is not too difficult for me to achieve. Because if I've got a pencil in my hand and some art supplies at my desk and a little bit of time to spare, I'm having a good time. No doubt about it. Put these loop-de-loops up here to show that the bow is a folded piece of fabric. I love a huge bow. I want my nieces to wear bows this big. My sister's really skimping out on the bows. No, she really dresses those girls up. It's actually really funny to see my sister dress the girls up because she wasn't like that. My sister was such a tomboy. Also hated wearing clothes in general when she was that age, so I can't believe she cares enough to get the girls together. But they're also they're very pleasant, sweet angel babies, and I am biased, but I can say it. And they will let her do their hair. Like my niece Savannah, I was never able to do my sister's hair at that age. I tried, and she'd fight me the whole time. I'd be so angry at her. But my niece Savannah will sit down and let you do her hair. If she wants it done. Like, she wants it to look nice and pretty, and she will let you do it. And sit down the whole time. I'm talking 20 minutes and more. So she is a blessing. Sophia's only a new little baby, so I don't really know what she's like yet, but I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt, thinking she's going to be fine. All right, let's do, I like this zigzag edge. I'm gonna exaggerate it for this though. This is like a lolly wrapper. Oh, see, this is what happened. This is why I lost parts of the knees. I'm not gonna do it to the middle. I'll do a different design for the middle panel. But this gets a square and a circle. This is kind of like a wrapped lolly. Looks a little bit like a freckle. What do you call them? What Americans call freckles? The candy, the little chocolate with all the hundreds and thousands on it, the sprinkles. What do you call those? We call them freckles, but I don't know if you call them that. And honestly, I don't even know what it could be called. I've seen it in Candy Crush, so I know you know what I'm talking about. And do you have licorice all sorts? Do you have a version of that? Like stacked layers of licorice and fondant. It's like a little square cube, and it's licorice fondant, licorice, and they're just different colors. What is your version of those called? Licorice all sort or no? American lesson time. All right. Oh, and then I did these were snakes. These are my Allen snakes. Big S for snake. I did them facing the same way. I could have done all of this symmetrical and, you know, been good about it, but no. Today's not the day to challenge myself. Triangle, candy corn witch's hat. It's kind of a double feature. And now I have to change up the middle panel because I wanted to, what's it called? I wanted to not put that ruffle at the bottom that got in the way. I don't think I need that little stick for the lollipop. There's so much candy on this. It looks so good. I love it. There we go. Loop, de-loop, de-loop. I did have these, what are they called? Like watermelon candies. I might put that one in the middle, actually, and then change these two loops to be something else. Well, actually, I'll just bring the snake down into the loop. That way I can fill that space. That's great. I don't mind that. Do I want to put like just a few? No. No, no. All finished. Well, I think it's just because it... No, I'm going to do that. I'm going to fade it out. There we go. Fade it into nothing. Because this is too big to not have anything in there. And then stripes, obviously. Stripes on the bones. I've got to go get my Copic markers because I did this in Copic. Could she have her gumdrop? Because now she's got a bit of space. The problem I have with composition in these journals, or anything really, and you'll see why I did this, for it to look balanced, the negative space has to be addressed for me. And that is typical. Most things, when you think it looks unbalanced, there's something off about the negative space. And here, I know there's a whole bunch over here, but I can deal with that thinking maybe I'll put a photo in there of my Halloween, you know, when I'm coming back through this journal and filling it up, or maybe I'll put some journaling in there, or like a ticket stub or something. Something can go there, a little ticket from Disneyland. However, nothing is really going to go down here. There's really no way I'm going to address this little gap that was right here. And because this bow hits so close to the edge, we're probably 0.5 centimeter, yep, 5 mil from the edge. Now I've got another edge down here that needs to be 5 mil. So that at least it's addressed. This all looks equidistant from this edge, so for all intents and purposes, that is fine and dealt with. All of that looks a little even and balanced to me. There's a chunk here, there's a chunk here, and it's all fine. However, I just cannot bear that there would be this little bit undealt with. This is fine, that can be for later. Here, if I really wanted to fill this space, I'd put, maybe she can hold another little lollipop in here. We'll put a big Chupa Chup over here. Why not? Or I could have taken her ribbons and put something over there. But I think this will be a fun thing. She can have an eyeball Chupa Chup with some lenches. Love the lenches. See the Halloworkshop week 2 for how much I love lashes. That looks crazy. Not that. Wonder if I should just take them off the bottom too. Yeah, don't worry about the bottom. There we go. All right. Loving her. Now, did I say I wasn't going to clean this up? I lied. I'm totally going to clean it up. I'm going to use a fine line pen and I'm going to ink the whole thing. I might do a little bit of the inking with you in real time so I can chat through some of my thoughts about that, but then I will speed up the rest because there's no reason you need to watch me redraw what I just drew, and then I'll come back and color it in. So we won't leave each other just yet, but I'll speed you through a lot of the inking process. The first thing I'm doing is taking this kneaded eraser that I've rolled up into a sausage, and I'm steam rolling over the whole thing. Be careful, you can get too excited with this and steamroll away your entire image. I tend to be very heavy-handed, so no matter how much I go over it, like is generally the faintest suggestion of what I once drew. But just be careful. Ooh, squeaky chair. Now I need a pen. I used a 0.03 for this, but this was really, really small. So I want something that's small enough on this scale. Oh, no, that seems too big. That was a 0.2. Oh, I would have thought that would be perfect. Maybe a 0.1? 0.1 looks good. So that I can get all these fine details in and have a good time coloring it in. I'm essentially making a big coloring page for myself. That's why I love all these extra little details, because I can go fuss and bother with all those later. The first thing I want to do is identify anything that's at the closest to me in the image. Things that are stacked on top of each other. There's a lot of candy here stacked on her head. So I want what is most forefront to come out first. So this candy drop, this gum drop, we call them jubes in Australia. And each time I'm drawing on these lines, I end up drawing 2. It just is an extra bit of detail that you can do with a fine liner. There we go. It doesn't have to be super neat. I'm not getting out any shape stencils or anything, but I just want to be able to have clean line work. So I don't want it to look sketchy. It can look wonky, not sketchy. So we call this we call this guided, but like a first stroke attempt, or one stroke attempt, where I just do the shape in one fell swoop and foul swoop. I'm doing one fell swoop and the shape is what it is. I'm not going to try and sketch together that circle to make it look more circular, but I'm picking everything that's in the foreground first so that I can draw that, and that way any of the overlapping lines that are still in there, I can draw those things in the background. So like this candy, put the lines on, all very simple patterns, like I said, stripes and dots, stripes and spots. See here, this jelly bean peeks out from behind the gumdrop, so now I can draw that only in the edges that are outside of that gumdrop. Put a few little spots on the jelly bean. It's moldy. There's a little star that kind of overlaps there. And then this candy corn is a little bit hidden. Oh, there's a big circle. Maybe like a cherry drop in front of that. And it hides behind that straight edge candy cane. This star goes behind the face. So maybe I would start with the face at this point. Edge in. I would be the most careful on the face. That's where you don't want double line work to really creep in. I did do it down here. If there is a little double line that peeks out because you needed to fix the edge, you can always add a stripe detail in there and it kind of addresses that very whimsically. And then there's a lot of little dots, little extra, I guess, gumballs everywhere. This is great because you can add extra colors, but it also fills in odd gaps because they can be kind of any size. You can make a couple of them cherries as well. Now there's that star that's peeking out. All I can really see now that it's peeking out are those edges. But you see, if you draw the things that are in front first, it makes it a whole lot easier to draw the stuff that's overlapped in the background. So that's my little approach to line work. Now we've got that big bow in the back. There's the square center of it where the fabric bunches out from. And I can go all the way out to the edge. Keep these pointed, but ever so slightly rounded. These are not super sharp points. They're just really slightly rounded. Some things might be sharp, like the edge of this ribbon might have a sharper edge to it. That might be fun. But for the bows, I'll keep it really slightly rounded up there. And then she has those loops. That's the little shadow area, so that would get shaded in. I'm not really going to do any of my shading with this. And by shading, I mean like the solid black areas. I won't do it with such a fine line pen because it's just going to take too long. That's where you just grab your thicker pens and do it with that. And she's got stripes. I try to keep things even, so if there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stripes on this side, I try to make sure there's 5 on the other side, just because if I choose a certain convention when I'm coloring or patterning, you know, if I choose to do black, white, red, if there are odd or non-matching sides, it can really stand out. So there's 5 up there, and then there's 3 stripes down the bottom. And make it as neat as you feel like you want to color it in. Sometimes people don't like to color things in that look really wonky, or too sketchy or too unresolved, so you might want some cleaner line work. I will color in the eyes because that's small enough to do. And they don't have to be solid black. You can have a nice sketchy line to them. A little bit of open white space in there. They look like watermelon seeds. And you can draw the upside down heart either separated, so they look like 2 little nostril cavities, or you can join it together. I like it joined together. The separated looks very Voldemort-y, so draw that at your own risk. I'm going to wobble down the crack in her head and then add a bit of extra line weight to certain areas of the crack, and that makes it look like it's open a little bit. Oh, she's got some more circles in there. Oh, I forgot to put the stripes on the middle part of that bow. Great. And now we're coming down into the body. These little circle spine things, they're square and circle. Does that make sense? Probably not. They're circle, but wonky them. Like squiggle, hold your pen and start squiggling as you go so that they're not completely circular. Because ironically, when you don't want to draw a circle, you will draw the most perfect circle you've ever drawn in your whole life. And then the last one is a lolly that just bridges the gap between her spine and then a dress appearing out of nowhere. Put my collarbones on. These are all tube shaped. All these random collarbones and rib bones. Just little tubes. And then the bones. They're all sketched out. I always kind of start with one edge and do that crossed over heart shape, and then 2 train tracks to wherever I need to go. You can make them really thin out as well. That would make them look really delicate if they get really spindly thin and then kind of chunk out to that bone edge, like the heart shape at the edge. They look like dog bones. I don't think do human bones look like that? I don't know. All bones look like that to me. But now I've got to go back to that theory where anything that's in the front or at the, you know, the most present in the image that's not overlapped by anything, I have to address first, because I don't want to accidentally have lines where they're not supposed to be. So this row of eyeballs that I've got on the dress, I have to do those before I move on, because there's a lot of things that could get mixed up over here. And this would be the first thing you saw. Now let me do the edge of the dress. I'm just doing the outline. I'm not doing any of the dress details just yet, because nothing crosses over that dress. That's all on its own and free. Now this, she's wearing bangles, so I'm gonna do the bangles first. I'll put the lolly on first because the lolly's on top of the bangle. And then put that bangle on. This one doesn't so much matter because if you go through with the bones line, the lolly has stripes on it, like a candy cane. So you can just pretend that those are a part of the stripes. Because I did that on mine. If I'm sketching something, I don't really care too much about overlapping lines. And now I can do the bone as it disappears through those two bangles. There you go. It's always a bit of a challenge. That's the thumb. Like I said, 3 or 4 sticks out. You should do 4 if you're going to do those 4 fingers coming out from it, but I really don't care. There's one. She's holding that down that way. Very delicate way to hold that. And then pop that stick through there. Coming through the fingers. I'm going to put that middle band of the lollipop on first as it loops around, and then put on the Choppa Chop eye. Oh, I'm going to put some Y shapes in the eye to make it look like it's bloodshot. That's Halloween-y. And then long tube shapes for the lashes. What's she got over here? Another bangle with another lolly, so she can have that. I said I wasn't going to draw all of this with you because I think I've shared my tip with you, but then I just got really into it. So I might stop there, finish inking the rest of this up, and if I have anything else to say, I'll let you know as far as the inking is concerned. But I'm just going to be finishing this up. So I'm going to ink this in speed, and then I'll come back to you for the coloring. That was so funny. It took me 5 minutes to do the rest of that. So I don't think I really saved much time at all, really. However, I'm on to the next bit. I've got Copic markers out, and I'm going to have a fabulous time coloring in, which I also feel like I shouldn't show you and make you sit through, because I'm just going to be coloring it in. And the only real thing I want to tell you about this process, and I guess I can demonstrate it pretty well on these 2 leg bones, is I'm using Copic markers because they're very flat. I do have a piece of paper under here to make sure that it doesn't bleed fully through, but this is pretty thick cardstock, so it'll definitely ghost, but I don't think it'll bleed through to the next page. I'm gonna lay color down, typically from lightest to darkest, and then I mean, you could technically go from fully lightest, color the whole thing in, and then start picking out different details to recolor or to add another color on top. This is a pale pink, but compared to how pale the other pink is, this one will look very tone on tone. And I might do every other stripe. So it's this beautiful tone on tone color. But then I also want to pick up more colors, and I'm going with all pinks. Like this whole thing is going to be pink. And perhaps I want to make like a little sock. Maybe it looks like she's wearing a little sock. I'm going to add something a little bit deeper, and I might shade in the other stripes, the lighter ones, up until a point, so maybe halfway through. So at this point, I did start by coloring in the whole thing. I've added 2 extra colors, and now I've got this thing going on. And perhaps even after all that is said and done, I just think, no, I want to make it look even brighter, that sock detail or leg warmer detail I might want. So I'm going to color over that mid shade pink. And we've added 3 or 4 layers, or 5, who knows at this point. I've completely lost track, I can't count, to get this look going on. So if you start with your lightest and then layer over the top, like that's gonna work best for you. Then also, all the shading I'm doing, can you see the shading in this? It's done with the pencil. I'm just going over with gray shading. Typically, you don't really wanna shade things gray because it kind of makes it look a little muddy or a little dull. But because this is a Halloween-y type image, we can get some of that grit and some of that dull and dark texture to it. So wherever I want to put my shading, say on the outside of these bones, I can put it there. What's perfect is that this is graphite, so if I decide, oh, you know what, I don't like that there, or I've gone a little too heavy, I accidentally shaded in the whole bone, you can erase it because it's a pencil. So I can choose where I want all of that shading to go. I mean, you can even color in one of the stripes with the gray if you really wanted to. So I'm going to do my shading with the graphite. And then because I won't, by the end of it, I'll just be coloring in all the blocks and then adding more colors and pulling out details and going over and over it and then doing this shading. I won't have any white space left. You'll have a very flat looking image, which I did like. I scanned it like that because I wanted to make sure I still had it. But because there's a lot of lollies on here and they tend to have that shine to them, that little glossy glow of the gelatin, you want to grab a white gel pen and add highlights. I usually do this as an exclamation point. So if you look closely over here, you can kind of see it. If I've got this jelly bean here, you're not going to be able to see it with this white. I choose whatever side I want. Usually I go on the right because it's easier for me to draw that. And then I will put an exclamation point. It curves with the angle of whatever that shape is. So if it is a straight edge, like a lollipop, not a lollipop, like a candy cane stem or something, it's just going to be a full-on exclamation point down the side. But if you've got this rounded edge, or you've got a lolly, you've got an eyeball-shaped lolly like this, it's going to follow down that curve. And you can make them thick, really chunky exclamation point, but I tend to like them kind of thinner. Depends on the size. And just in case you can't see any of that because it's all in white, I'm going to go over it again. Nope, I'll do it with black so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Here is the exclamation point. Just invert that. Wherever you see the black, that becomes white. You can put 1, or you can really gloss it up. Sometimes you can put an extra few dots on there as well, just depending on how glossy you want it. But though all of those highlights would be white, and I'd keep them all on the right-hand side of all my lollies. And even some of my skull, like I put it on the skull too, so she's got a bit of a gloss shine to her head. But that's the technique that I'm going to do. So where's my white pen? This one's running out. I think I need a different one. Is this the better one? Yes, it is. I'm going to put a bit of white just on that part of the bone there. And down here, especially in these darker areas with darker colors, you can really see that pop. And then even through the middle of my bone, just going to get an extra highlight there. There's going to be glossy highlights all over it. She's going to look delectable in pretty shades of pink. My colors are blush and bashful. And she's going to be a whole pink extravaganza, just like her little sister. I should have drawn them different or different colors. Now they're too similar. It's fine. They'll be different enough. I'm going to do this in speed. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll put the music on. Hopefully you've had a lovely time with your Skeletina Ballerina if you've been playing along, and if not, hopefully you've just found yourself falling into a deep trance like sleep, and it's time to wake up. Now, go back to work. Or go back to enjoying your day. I'm certainly going to go and have a fabulous day after this. The weather is great outside. By the time you see this, I don't even know where I'll be. I might be in Italy, but I'm going to go outside after this and have a lovely walk and eat an apple. It's going to really turn my my head around. I've got so much going on in my brain right now that, oh, you know what? While your music's going, this will be going. I'll be drawing by this point. You should already be seeing me color in like a maniac. I'm going to chat to you for a second, and I'll use this as a part of my voiceover. My brain is on another level right now. I've got so many things that I have to do, but then some of the deadlines I'm actually a little confused about. And I've hit this part where I think I got so stressed about it, I've decided to be in denial, where like I do know that there's something I should check, but I'm trying to pretend like I don't. And if it becomes a problem for future me, that's for him to worry about, not me. I think one of my deadlines is October, but there is so no part of me that thinks I can get that done. And I said this about my Virtual Voyage 9 workshop. I actually didn't think I'd be able to get all of that done. That was the first one I did where I was fully dancing and had like 4 days a week dancing while I was doing it. And that seemed like way too much. I think I took 2 days off work. I gave those shifts away so that I could do the live streams, but I did every other shift. And even leading up into it, I still felt like I was just missing a lot of time that I usually use for my workshops. The Halloworkshop is going well though. Like I think I'm very much on top of that. And because it's one, like each week, a warm-up lesson and a main lesson get released, that has been much more manageable on my end. I'm still haven't, seen a lot of what is coming out of it yet. So I don't know how finisher friendly it really is. I know I've said that, but I mean, I know a lot of you guys, I know a lot of people that do the workshops. I know pretty much what most people consider a lesson that they could finish. And so I always keep that in mind. This one in particular, me showing you on YouTube how I go about it and just kind of stepping through the process. If I was to ever do an advanced type of lesson, I would do more things like this because there's just so much involved in it. Like there's so much to reference if you were going to go and find all the different candies that you were going to put onto your piece. And then I also sometimes think if you're going to spend the extra time and effort to, teach a lesson, then there's elements of that I want to be very personalized as well, or really extend people into finding their own versions of things, or to encourage people to really go with their own thoughts about how they could personalize. Even with this, I've chosen a lot of these candies, but I'd probably work into the lesson like different types of candies you would add for different reasons, or theming it. Like my original Skeletina Ballerina was just wearing a tutu and had a bow in her hair. She was actually not themed at all. This became the Sugar Plum Fairy, candy princess version because I felt like that would be a nice extra layer. But when I really look at it, it gives a little bit Harajuku vibes to me, and then I'd want to start adding that in there, like all these points of reference, and then I get into this huge creative frenzy about what I'm going to teach, and then it becomes so heavily involved with so many layers. I also don't want to teach one piece like this over 4 or 5 different lessons. That seems like overkill to me. For a regular workshop, I think there is, in the back of my head, there's this thought that I will one day do a bit more of an advanced workshop where, there's a lot of implied skill that you would have coming in. So I wouldn't step through the process as thoroughly as I do at this point. A lot of the time I make sure that even someone who considers themselves a very beginner at art journaling and at illustration and at painting and, all these things that we do, stamping, I do make sure I start from the beginning and that we step through each process and make sure that each part where you might get a little confused or stuck, that we address that before it actually becomes a problem. But if the lesson is too involved, you end up spending hours tackling possible problems and it just is not feasible. So I think one day I really would, and I've mentioned in the past, I think I've even done a couple of trial lessons, and I saw a few people do them and had great success with them. But again, it's a very niche thing to do. It's not very welcoming, or welcoming is the wrong word. I wouldn't expect that a lot of people would want to do it. So I think it'd be a time where I could afford to do a workshop where not a lot of people would join, and it'd be something that was a little bit more of a passion project for me, just to lead a smaller group of people through, some more advanced work. But even that, I don't think there's anything stopping me from sharing it on YouTube. And so if there are people out there that do know a lot of what I've already taught and have seen a lot of this, I mean, technically, if you've done a lot of my lessons, you've learned how to draw this skull, you've learned, basic fashion figure anatomy from me. If you've learned even all these, the candy illustrations from the Halloworkshop, you actually do have all the elements to put it all together. Sometimes it just seems like I go really quickly when I teach, when I show it on YouTube, when I step through the process. But I think at this point, realistically, I have given out every single bit of information I've ever learned. So if you've done most of my workshops, you have all the same access to all the knowledge in my brain that I have. So it would just be a matter of, I don't know, getting your pencil out and trying it, I guess. So I'm happy to bring these, the extra mile type videos to YouTube. I struggle to call them lessons because they're not I'm not making an effort to make sure I'm teaching properly. There's definitely a lot of information missing for the sake of not making the video a 45-part lesson and tutorial. But, you know, there is still that part of me that sometimes thinks that would be a good thing to do. And it's in the back of my brain. So if you've ever wondered, it'll come one day, I guess. And then, or it might not. You know me, never promise. And then, yeah, so workshop, that's going well, actually. It's just the other deadlines for a couple of other things. Most of it's all sorted, but the trip to Italy is like really throwing me because it's just over a week, I think. And I don't anticipate doing any work while I'm there because I'll be doing, what's it called? I'll be doing assisting. I'll be assisting Steve. A lot of my work I have done beforehand, and it's fine. I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point. I'm so excited for the holidays to come. I'm so excited for Christmas. I know I'm jumping the gun because we're right in what I'm deeming Halloween season, but I've already been watching all my Halloween stuff. I've already been getting into my Halloween mood. I've just done Beetlejuice. I've done the Hocus Pocus. Actually, there's not a ton of fall movies that I watch. I really anticipate Christmas coming. But for now, this is Skeletina Ballerina. I hope you've had a wonderful time being here today. Thank you so much for being a part of the workshop if you're a Halloworkshop class member. And if you are just joining us for the extra mile, we love that too. And please use the hashtags to share some of your work with us on social media, because that is, especially on Instagram, that's where I go. There's still the Berkmates Creative Outlet Facebook group, but I have all but left that page to run itself. And that is that on Facebook, just because, I don't know, I think I'm done with Facebook. I can't get rid of it because so many of my memories are on there, but Facebook as a platform is not something I gravitate towards. Instagram and YouTube, to a lesser extent, YouTube really as a social platform. Usually that's like just what I see as my entertainment and where I host this. But Instagram is usually where you can find me. TikTok, I'll lose my whole night to. That's just my, turn my brain off and die inside time. But Instagram, go hashtag some stuff over on Instagram. Let us see what you're working on. And then also check the other hashtags. Just because I haven't posted all the other work that we've been doing in the workshop to YouTube, obviously I wouldn't do that. But, I'm sure I'll flip through it at some point. Just because it's not here doesn't mean you still can't be inspired by that and go and try some of those things. So if you see all these little candies that I drew today, if you see the lolly bag, the My Lolly Bag lesson from week 3, if you see that and you want to go and have a go at that, even though you're not a part of the workshop, please do. Like, I'm never offended if you're inspired by something and you want to have a go. But if you want to join, we're still going. Halloworkshop is currently at week 3, which means we're not even halfway. Still 4 more weeks to go of fabulous Halloween art journaling content, and I will see you wherever I end up seeing you. Have a lovely day, everyone. Bye.